brother, Daniele Bolelli.
Indeed.
Welcome back to the Warrior Poet Project, my friend. How are you?
Good. It's good to see again the half of me who speaks proper English as opposed to, you're the version of me that was created somewhere, who was born in the US, speak English right.
Yeah, that's what's up. How many others of us are out there? Is there like one in each country, Could we find like a Swedish one?
Yeah, should be fun.
And like a Chilean version
maybe
somewhere
more.
out there? Maybe more.
You ever watched the movie The One with Jet Li? Where there are all the different, there's like multiple universes and different Jet Lis. There's a Jet Li who has an afro, there's a Jet Li who has... And, I like in our version, they all try to kill each other in order to gain their power, but
right.
I like our version better.
Yeah, they were kind of the Highlander version.
Yeah, exactly.
There can be only one.
Exactly.
Where me and you just square off, and you have your sword and I have my sword, and we
I'll absorb you. I'll absorb his powers.
Yeah. Did you ever used to watch that TV show? The Highlander, the series?
No, I watched the movie way back in the
Paul.
day, but I didn't see
so
the
funny.
series.
I used to love that show. The music would get me fired up. I'd be like jumping around because they had that Queen song. I am immortal.
Right.
I have inside me blood of kings. I'd be like running around the house, boy. But I go back to watch it now, and every time he cuts someone's head off, he has a full orgasm. I didn't realize he's like shaking and trembling from his body, and I'm like, you're having an orgasm from absorbing his energy.
Yeah, nothing like beheading.
Yeah.
Some people got off with the strangest things.
Exactly, the beheading orgasm.
Yeah.
Well, I had a topic for today's podcast,
Let's roll.
And the topic is honor. I was watching The Last Samurai again, and one of my favorite movies. I really enjoy that movie. And surprising because Tom Cruise is in it, and it doesn't bother me at all.
I'm gonna walk out right now because it's like having a conversation with myself. It's exactly what I've said 17 times. It's like, why do I actually like Tom Cruise movies when I don't like Tom Cruise, and yet he's good.
There it is. Yeah. So I'm watching it, and the samurai had a very distinct code of honor. And there's a lot of people who had a lot of different definitions of honor. Cyrano had his own code of honor. The Spartans had their code of honor. And then us as modern man has a very kind of, we have some things that we try to keep, that's not honorable. Like dating someone's girlfriend. But it's very flimsy. Like we have like a couple rules, and we don't really take it as far and as seriously as other people did in the past. So what do you think it was? Do you think it was the warrior culture? Do you think why has that concept of honor kind of fallen off?
That's I don't know that it has fallen off. I think what it is I don't think it was ever mainstream. Even if you go among the samurai in the 1600s or something, I don't think necessarily that every samurai was this paragon of honor who would never.
Right.
I think what
so it's romanticized when we look backwards.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah.
And it's not that it's fake, because that stuff is real. But we take the experience of maybe 5 to 10%, who then push that idea on maybe another 20% to run with it just because it was cool at the time. But I think the core of it is human beings are what they are. So there's always exceptions in every time period. There are always exceptional individuals. I guess that's what I mean. And if those exceptional individuals are able to communicate certain values on a mass scale, then many people jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
If they were not influenced by that, they would do something else. That's almost by chance. They just ran with what's cool at the time. And I think in some particular cultures and time periods, the honor element was a big one, not because every single person was born with that in their DNA or that's who they were at heart, because there were enough exceptional individuals pushing
enough leaders who exemplified that.
Exactly.
Let's look, looking at the samurai culture, they probably took it to the extreme in the fact that they would take their own life, seppuku, if they were shamed in battle for defeat. How do you think that extreme version kind of came about? That's interesting to me because it's so foreign for us.
On that note, I'm going to answer the question, but I have to tell you a story with a slight detour to that.
Yeah, sure.
I'm having a conversation with my 4-year-old daughter the other day, and she walked out of school, and she's telling me about her day in school, and it's like, whatever, it's interesting, but nothing. And all of a sudden she tells me about one of her little friends, and she said, yeah, when it's gonna be my birthday, she's gonna give me a ear. I'm like, you mean her earring? She's gonna give you a pair of earrings for your birthday? She's like, no, she's gonna give me a ear, because, she made a promise to me, and she broke it. So I told her, now you have to chop off your ear. And she said, yeah, I know I did it. So for my birthday, she's going to chop off her ear, put it in a box, and give it to me. I was like, who am I raising here? Oh my God. It's like a Yakuza thing, you fall short of what your commitment, you have to chop off your pinky kind of thing. It's like, man. But of course, again, to everybody out there.
You come home today and your daughter's tattooing herself with Japanese demons on her arms. You're like, uh-oh.
I would not be surprised by now. But, so on that note, I wouldn't take it literally, not just the story, but for everybody. The idea of literally, you fuck up once and you have to kill yourself. Okay, you're taking it perhaps just a tiny bit too far. Maybe forgiving yourself and doing better next time is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something amazing about the purity of somebody who expects from oneself such high standards of, I wouldn't call it perfection, but pretty close to that, that anything less than that, life is not worth living. Then it's like, I don't want to be alive if I can be alive with the highest degree of integrity possible. You can't tell but step back and go like, wow, that's a man.
Yeah.
There is...
And you see it in these stories, and it's one of the things that's so compelling.
Yeah.
And I guess there was some kind of martial advantage for it, because if you knew that if you lost, you had to kill yourself, you're pretty much going to fight to the last breath.
Yep.
At that point, there's no considering if you're gonna surrender, and what's the point? You might as well fight like a fucking demon till you can't fight anymore. The last drop of blood is spilled.
Precisely.
And I guess the Spartans had this similar philosophy. They didn't kill themselves, but they refused to surrender and retreat at any situation. Like that was just not an option. So they would fight till they died anyways, to the last man.
With your shield or on it, right?
Yeah, with your shield or on it.
It's either you come back home with your shield because you won, or, because the thing they would do in battle is the losing army would throw away their shields to run away faster.
Yeah.
And it's like, nope, the shield is going to be with you either because you won or because they are carrying your body back on the shield. That's pretty badass right there, is this manic commitment to give 110% of yourself to the task at hand. Now, the part where it gets a little shady with the samurai or the Spartans or all of that is that beautiful degree of integrity and commitment was often put to the service of some warlord who's out to screw over the people in the next county and take over their land. It's like, not exactly a noble goal. If you can become that type of a human being, put that to the service of some real good ideal. Now we're talking. Otherwise, it's amazing. I mean, it's beautiful to consider the integrity, but again, what are you using it for? That's the part where I feel a little like...
Sure, and as I get older too, I watched Last Samurai the first time, and I was perfectly happy with all the Japanese Imperial Army just getting hacked to pieces. I was like, yes, die, kill them all. And now I'm thinking like, these poor bastards are just conscripted in this stupid army by stupid Omura, the advisor in that movie. Right. It's like, and it sucks that they have to die, and it sucks that the samurai have to die. Exactly. But still, you admire the story and the thing, but it just seems like, what a fucking waste. At the same time. So there is that kind of element of complete unnecessity.
That's why to me is the samurai ideal applied today, not at the service of fighting for some state against some other states, or you don't really care. It's like, what's the point? But in a way for humanity as a whole, in a way for the 7 million problems that are really seriously affecting human beings all over the world, causing widespread pain and suffering to everybody who's alive. Get that samurai spirit and apply it to that battlefield, and then you are a warrior on a level that even the samurai of old can quite compete with.
Yeah.
Not in terms of integrity, because again, nobody can probably match, but certainly not exceed the level of integrity, but in terms of the purpose for which that...
Well, sure, because they were at the whims of some shogun.
Yeah.
Pointed a direction.
Right.
That was it. But if you take the highest ideals of humanity, apply that same Bushido, that warrior ethos, to that, that's a powerful force. And I think that's what is necessary to move things. People of that extreme honor and code, in order that's gonna be the most powerful force.
I do feel that way in some parts of my life, because my morality tends to be highly flexible. Some people would say, just because I don't exactly follow the rules of behavior and laws and everything that, but on another level,
highly impeccable.
Absolutely. I don't have many rules. I have very, very few.
Yeah.
But to me, there are things that, like giving my word. If I give you my word, literally, well, I don't want to find out because I never broke it, but in my mind is, if I break my word, seppuku is the option. You know what I mean? Because it's like, there's no way that you give me your trust, I give you my word, and I'm going to break that. What kind of a fucked up human being am I?
Yeah.
I'm not one who's worth living. I'm not one who deserves to be alive if that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Now, again, who knows? Maybe one day I fuck up and I go like, you know what? It wasn't that bad.
Okay, so let me extend that further, because there's the giving of your word, which is this kind of thing where you tell somebody something that you're going to do and then you stick to it. But then there's also this kind of gray area of the selective honesty that you can use, particularly in relationships.
Right.
And that's a really challenging thing when it comes to honor, because in one end, the most honorable thing to do is to be 100% honest all the time. But it's also challenging to find that boundary of what is too much, And I think that's a struggle that you have. Being dishonest, it's pretty clear, that's fucked up. But where is that line of you're withholding some information, some things that you feel? And, to me, the more I think about it, the more I'm getting to the point where I'm not even comfortable withholding truth. Not even telling false truth, because that, I agree with you, that's a transgression that I'm extremely uncomfortable with.
Yep.
But even withholding any partial truth is becoming more and more uncomfortable to me.
I guess there are two levels to that make sense to me. On one level, that's why I say giving your word as opposed to being honest all the time, because I want to choose when I give my word. I don't want to be holding myself to that standard 24/7 in the sense that, but I want you to feel that if you are somebody who, either in a relationship or you are good friends or somebody that wants to know, look, I really need to know where we stand here. Can you give me your word? Either you're going to get it done, or can you give me your word and that's what you mean? If I choose to say, yes, I give you my word, then I want you to feel that you can take it to the bank. Like there's there's no flexibility there. But that doesn't mean I'm going to give you my word 24/7 about every little thing. Because as you say, sometimes there are white lies that are not even done from a bad place, but you're like, certain pieces of information, I don't think maybe this other person would handle them well. And so being honest is not doing them a favor, because you're just giving them rope to hang themselves with. It's a dangerous game to decide for somebody else.
The most honorable thing to do is to be that way.
And that's in fact my second aspect, where I completely agree with you. Whereas before I was like qualifying, the other part is, even for other people, but even for myself, I don't really want to live that way anymore in terms of holding too much back. I want to be... One thing that happened to me over the last 3 years is that whenever I held back before, and I decided life is too short, I want to be me 110% of the time. And if the people around me can deal with it and they like it, great. If something feels weird and strange, well, I'm not going to be an asshole, I'm going to discuss about it, we can talk about it, but ultimately I want to be who I am. I don't want to put on an act for anybody.
Yeah.
And there's something monstrously liberating about that, where you just feel like, this weight gets taken off your shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, it feels nice to be me. And it feels nice that if you like me for who I am, you really like me for who I am, not for the little game the little show I'm putting on for you of me in my best version. Mm-hmm. No, this is who I am. I'm good in that way, and I also do these things that are probably questionable for a lot of people. See it all.
And that's what I think is really fucked up about our culture, our romantic culture in our society. And one of the things that I think Chris Ryan's book is so good at doing is people are upheld to this standard that's not possible. Mm-hmm. Men are supposed to, be like these faithful doves where they just look at one woman and that's the only person they're sexually attracted to ever. And the females actually expect that.
Right.
And you almost as a man internalize that
Yep.
and think that you're a fuck up and a fucking
I
dog.
look at that girl's ass, oh my god, I'm a bad human being,
exactly.
I need to commit seppuku now.
So you're held to this weird stand, and there's this part of the relationship where it's just completely bullshit, where she's pretending you're a certain way, you're pretending you're a certain way, and you don't really see each other. And to me, that's a barrier for true love to happen. That complete freedom of, this is exactly who I am, completely naked. Not naked in the flesh, but naked in the soul.
Right.
Where everything is bared open, and it's just like, look at me, this is what I am, and love me or don't love me. But I don't pretend. And I don't see that hardly anywhere. Maybe in the rarest, few of the kind of more progressive, new agey kind of relationships, they've kind of accomplished that, and I admire them for it. But in the mainstream, it's just so impossible just to find that out there. And I think it's one of the big reasons of these problems, because if that person is supposed to be your soulmate, the person who you are the most intimate with, and you're pretty much lying a little bit all the fucking time about what you're thinking, and sometimes about what you're doing. But at least a lot of men have enough honor not to act on it. But they're all full of shit as far as what they're thinking.
Of course.
And then the women are thinking that they're justified in what they're thinking about what the man should do.
Yeah.
And even the other way, men thinking that women shouldnbe looking at other men going,
it's
I'd love to fuck that dude.
Of course.
Imagine what he would feel like with his abs on me, or whatever they're thinking. Of
course.
I just feel like that that part is really missing, and is really kind of hindering, I think, one of the biggest aspects of happiness in our life.
I completely agree. Now, it's difficult once you already have started a relationship, no matter how amazing the person you are with. If you have lied, and again, lied sound bad, but if you have, let's say you click 85% where you are a perfect match, and then there are those things that you hide away because they don't fit. If you have done it long enough, it's very difficult to change the dynamics and to say, oh, look, surprise, there's also this part, because it's like, whoa. So I can see the struggle with that when you're already in it. But when you're not already in it, the goal should be to walk into anything with that attitude. To me, I decided at some point, again, all the last 3 years, I decided I don't want to have a relationship ever again. And it was weird, right? It was probably stupid and whatever, but I can see where I was coming from. But my attitude about that was, I know what a relationship entails. They take a mountain of compromises, they take a mountain of sometimes hiding little parts of you away and all of that. And because I respect and, I want to be in a relationship with somebody that I respect and love, I'm not willing to put that into it anymore for anybody. Yeah. So I'm guessing that, unless I run into the perfect match in every conceivable way who accept 101% of who I am, then probably not, right? And that's almost impossible. So you're like, well, I'm basically saying I'm never going to have a relationship again, and I'll live with that. And of course, one of the things that was weird is that the second I embrace who I wanted to be, all the time, without hiding it, just eat your face, I'll be super nice, but you'll also see the parts that may be a little weird. The weirdest thing happened where suddenly, whatever much women like me before, they like me 3 times as much
Right.
then. And I was like, wait, but I'm confused here. You're supposed to not to like me now because...
that honesty is attractive.
Yeah.
You know, that rawness is appealing, I
Yeah.
think. But people are afraid of it. They feel like, oh, if I don't pretend this way,
Yeah.
you know, that it won't work. But it's a hard thing to do. I think even if you made the conscious decision, say, okay, look, you know, I'm never going to sleep with another woman, but we're at least going to be completely honest about what I'm wrestling with.
Of course.
And if you could, even if men could even talk to their wives or girlfriends about it and be like, man, it's really kind of a struggle. I was feeling the burden, you know, I was on the trip out, a business trip, and, you know, it's hard, but I love you and we're going to keep it. And she's like, you know, hey, I really appreciate that. I know it's a burden. It would be such a relief. Like, okay, cool. I'm doing something. I'm making some kind of physical sacrifice, but it's cool. I'm honest about it. And it's just part of that. I think that would alleviate so much angst if you could just lay it out on the table, even if you made the rules about what actions you could do or not. Because we can all, you know, decide not to eat a brownie or eat a brownie, you know. It's not like that freaks us out. But lying and saying, I hate brownies, I hate chocolate.
Like, I never look at brownies, ever. And it's, you are the only chocolate I love. It's like,
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Whatever.
I think that would help things
immensely. It does. Because I agree with you about the action and internal reality going on. Because I've had that discussion, the monogamy discussion, in just about every single relationship I've been. I always start it out with, I think monogamy sucks. And invariably the female answer has been, you know, actually, I must say, every single person I've had this discussion with, they've all been very cool in terms of, as we go back and forth, there's like, I get the philosophical idea, I get the point of it, I'm not comfortable living that way.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe it's my limitation, who the hell knows, but the bottom line is, I can live that way, so take it or leave it, it's either monogamous or not. Laying the cards on the table, then it's a free choice. You know, it's like, well, if I want to be with you, you have certain attitudes you want to keep. I can respect that. And honestly, I can. And once I say it, then I can live the card in that way. But of course, being honest, it's like, it doesn't mean, I don't think any other woman in the world looks... There's probably a lot of women that I would love to have sex with, but I won't, because, you know, we set up things in a certain way, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Not a problem, but... At least let's be honest.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. And then so there's another aspect of honor to change the topic. I'm a huge fan of Cyrano de Bergerac. Have you read the play?
Yeah.
So his version of honor, if someone slights him or insults him, he has a razor sharp wit and a razor sharp sword. And you're going to get the wit first, and if you persist, you're going to get the sword. And so in our society, in our culture, it's a challenge to live by that code, you know. So if someone insults you, the first reaction is, you know, the Cyrano code of honor would be to slice him back with your wit that's sharper than his, you know. And then if they persist, you know, then you ball up your fist and you go, and that's how you settle it out. And that's his kind of code of honor. But that's not a very effective way to live now, and it's kind of a bummer. It's like, you know, I really idolize that version of Cyrano's honor, where it's like, you insult me, I'll insult you back. You know, you want to fight, I'll beat you. You know, and it's very simple and very appealing, but it's not really possible to do this. Now it takes more, you know, the proper course of action is generally to just ignore it and let it be, and, you know, see that person for who they are, forgive them for having that point of view and that anger and whatever else, and just let it go and not let it be phased. But it's kind of this juxtaposition of the honor I'd kind of like to have and what I have to do because it's most effective and best for my path.
I think, the honor you like to have, I don't know that you really... I think you like it in the sense that you read it early on in life. Right. It was a cool romantic story. There's a beauty to it. But when you break down the components, yes, it's not particularly effective. And ultimately, there's something about it that's not even that attractive, because the reality is that when you react so quickly to any perceived slight on your honor, to me, it kind of speaks like insecurity. It's saying something that your opinion of my integrity is really... That means if you're really secure, It's like if somebody looks at you and tells you, start making fun of you because you're short. It's like, well, you clearly are not short, you're a tall guy, so you'd be like, it would mean nothing to you, right? Yeah. You would just be like, I'm glad you're having fun with that, but it really doesn't do anything to me. It's not true. It doesn't. If somebody, quote unquote, insult you and you react so emotionally, to me it's because they touch on something that's real.
Yeah.
You know, they touch on something that maybe deep down you're not so sure about your integrity, you're not so sure about it.
But the heroes, they don't react emotionally, they act just cool and effective, you know, because I think that you're absolutely right. Any kind of emotional response is a sign of insecurity. But in Cyrano, or the case of all the action heroes, in all these action movies, they'll have that thing where someone will insult them and either beat them up or whatever, something will happen. It's just that they don't. It's just part of what they do. You know, it doesn't even faze them.
Right.
It's just like, oh, you insulted me. Well, this is what happens.
Right.
This is just the
instant karma.
This is the instant karma.
You know, I think having that in your back pocket is not a bad idea, but choosing when you use it.
Right.
You know, because I don't want to be the turn the other cheek guy every time, because at that point that's not genuine. That's not honest.
Right.
I want to choose. You know, you are being a dick and you're saying these mean, horrible things. I want to choose whether it feels right in this situation to roll with it and maybe be nice to you in a way that makes you see how the stuff you're saying really doesn't apply here. Mm-hmm. Maybe, you know, other solutions to the conflict. But I also want to have in the back the option of saying, I'm just going to punch you out. You know, it's like, because just having that option make all your other actions more honest, more real. Because you're choosing. At any point you decided, you know what, change my mind. Sorry, you just pissed me off. This time, you know, on a different day maybe, but you're going to get it.
Yeah.
You know?
So we deal with it most on the online forums. You know, that's where you get the most. Very rarely are you insulted face to face.
Right.
You know, so I look at these people who I admire, and you know, Joe Rogan's one of them, and so he has his comedian honor, where if someone heckles him in the crowd, he's gonna rip him to pieces. That person is going to be he's competing with a far superior wit that has a microphone, that is used to this, and he just laces into him, and it's great. It's this kind of justice that's amazing. And then, you know, he'll occasionally dabble in that online, but he can kind of get away with it. But every time I've gone down that path, I end up regretting it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would love to point out your bad grammar and your bad spelling and your bad ideas and your silly thoughts and go into it. But every single time, I've never had a point where I've done that. Even when I say something really funny and people, it just stirs this pot, and they come back more aggressive. And so now it's to the point where I just you know, ignore them and move on. But it's just a weird kind of dynamic where you feel like you want to shut them down and show them how foolish they are, but it doesn't really make any sense.
I often fail at that. That, you know, it's like showing red to the bull. The immediate reaction is, I'm gonna pound you, mother. But you're right, it doesn't really solve anything. You know, you may need to do it once in a while to blow off steam, but deep down it doesn't, you know, you just had Robert Greene on, and the whole thing about strategy is that in a situation of conflict like that, either you can handle it in a way that you crush your enemy, so to speak, where it ends right there in a nasty fashion, or it's not worth it, because all you're doing is prolonging a conflict that even if you come up on top, even if you come out with the better line as the winner, you really haven't changed the person's mind. You just momentarily silence, and they're going to be angry, and they're going to want to lash out more down the road, and they're going to be... So at the end of the day, that's not a victory either.
Sure. Well, look, I mean, you can look to historical examples. Look at what the Treaty of Versailles did to Germany, which led to the rise of the Nazis. You know, that was directly related. They overstepped in, you know, victory over Germany after the First World War, put too harsh of a, you know, resolution on there, and it created this, you know, anger that built and led up to that war machine that came out, and that we very fortunately were able to stop at the kind of last moment there. You know, but you know, I think that's definitely it. And Robert Greene has that chapter that says, crush your enemies completely.
Yep.
You know, so like and it's ruthless, but the way unless you can do it the way the Mongols did it, and I'm not talking that's a moral way. Obviously, it's not. It's completely immoral. But where you go into a town, you kill everybody, and then you ride off, and then you go back for the people who are hiding in little holes and hovels and kill them too as they're trying to bury their dead. Yeah, maybe at that point the enemy's done. You know, but unless you're willing to take it to that extreme, which insulting somebody online, you're never going to do that. No. You're just going to create more anger and more energy for that.
Absolutely. No, so, I agree. It's like either you're willing to go all out in a full-on genocidal fashion, or are you kidding me? Why? You know, you're just going to feed the conflict more and more. No, I completely agree. And it's silly at the end of the day. It's a waste of energy.
Yeah.
Again, having said that, I fail at that regularly, so it's something to work on.
Yeah, for sure. It's certainly a challenge. So it's almost like our modern, you know, it seems like there's kind of an ephemeral idea of honor in this, but there's also some other kind of honor. So let's say someone insults your girlfriend. Mm-hmm. You know, certainly in person, that is a slight that cannot go unavenged. You have to say something, or if they touch your girl,
yes,
game on immediately. You know, no
Mongol genocidal version at that point.
Scorched earth.
Bring out your inner Mongol, and yes.
So there's kind of, I think it would be an interesting kind of analysis to look at what is the honor for the modern man. You know, like what is a modern warrior honor? You know, because it's different. It's, I think, depending on the situation and depending on the time period, it changes. But I think that would be interesting to kind of take a look at.
I think one thing that remains true in all times, in all places, is living your life with a degree of integrity that the people who care and love for you can always count on you. You have their back. You don't let anyone down. And by anyone, again, I don't mean can be complicated things out there. So I'm just talking about the people who are counting on you because you let them count on you, which is loved ones, family, things like that, you know. That degree of integrity, I think, applies to, there's not a single time in history where you say, well, it shouldn't apply in that particular scenario. No, that's life. That's all of life. I mean, if people who care and love you can trust you, then what are we talking about?
Sure.
You know, it's like there's no. So to me, that's the foundation.
That's the core of it. All right, but then here's where it gets challenging. One of the things that, you know, I personally struggle with is I was engaged for a time period, and so I gave a girl a ring and a promise.
Right.
Was I completely sure when that happened? No, not really. But I thought that, you know. But then I look back now, and obviously, you know, it didn't work out, and I feel like I made a promise that I couldn't keep, and that it had this kind of detriment. To it, you know, and I wonder if I could have been smarter and been more realistic with myself, and it's like a violation of that core principle. I feel like, to me, and it's hard to kind of reconcile that.
It is, and it's not. I mean, on one level, literally it is, right? On the other level is you are going with a social script of how things are supposed to be done that wasn't really true to life, one, and to you, number two. The reality of it is that you being who you are today, if you look at that same situation, the dynamics would probably be very different. You wouldn't be in that same place, in that same situation, because maybe, I don't know, what's your take on it? Do you believe in, like, the whole idea of marriage, the ring, the promise, that kind of stuff? Does that, as an ideal, make sense to you? Does it not?
I think you can't do that with the package that comes with it.
Right.
You can choose to do it under your own kind of rule system and under your own guise, and I think it's kind of a noble gesture that's well recognized, and I think there's some qualities to that I like. But I think you obviously have to not take the church version of the doctrine and say, okay, now this is this, and this is, we're all going to be happy, and yay! Yeah. You know, I think you have to kind of make it your own. Create your own marriage.
Create your own marriage, yes. No, you're right. I think that's what happened. Is you bought into somebody else's version of what you would actually want, and partially you do agree, and partially you don't, and that's the part where it went to hell. To me, is making a promise like that. I'm not against making promises or making a promise even in that department, but to me, it's like I make you a promise that you can probably love somebody for life. That does not mean that you're gonna be in a relationship with them for life. And even that saying for life is tricky because people sometimes change, and how I can definitely love the person you are now. I can love the person you have been. I can love the person that I see you becoming. But, tomorrow you hit your head and you turn into Attila the Hun, I'm not going to love you, because you're becoming an awful human being. Right. And so, do I see that happening? No. Do I expect it? No. But if I say, I love you, this physical body I see in front of me, no matter what happens 50 years down the road, you're lying, because you don't know. You don't know what that person is going to be. Mm-hmm. You probably know. You may know. But again, may is not a promise.
Sure.
Probably is not a promise. So the promise is, I'm going to give you everything I have right here, right now. I'm going to give you everything I have for as long as there's that something with us. I'm going to go the extra mile when things don't work to try to figure out ways to make them work. That's as honest as a promise you can make.
Mm-hmm. I was with Don Miguel Ruiz, who's a Toltec master, and his take on love and relationships was, he says, look, I make only one promise, and the promise is I'm going to love you generously and receive your love graciously. And that's it. And he had a bunch of girlfriends, even where he was at the conference, and I don't think, you could see them kind of jostling, but he was just completely open, honest. You could tell that he was living up to his end of the bargain, and it was up to them to decide whether they wanted to fit into that piece.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really all that you can promise to do is, love you as generously as possible and receive your love as graciously as you're capable.
That's, the multiple girlfriends at the conference part, that could actually be very Italian, but being so succinct in that's not Italian at all. That's why I'm going off. It's like, that promise, I can promise you this, I can promise you that. It's like, he put it in a one-liner. Yeah. That works. Nice. Yeah, for sure. That simplifies things. I dig that.
Well, Daniele, this was great. I think we kind of unpacked the code of honor for the modern man. This is what I needed to get to with you. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you. Always a pleasure seeing you. We'll have to do this many, many more times, hundreds of times over our lifetime.
As many times as we want.
Sounds good, my brother.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.